Today, I'm going to talk about creating that reconnection with your creative spark. We've been going over how to rewrite our story, but if we don't have a connection to ourselves and we don't have a connection to that creative part of ourselves, it's really difficult to rewrite that story. You don't have the imagination going to be able to see that future story, that future self that you want to connect with. So creating that reconnection with your, inner creator helps you to be able to rewrite that story. So how can we do that? Well, the first thing is learning how to play like a kid. If you are comfortable with being childlike and letting go of that grown-up version of you, that grown-up part of you, where all the rules are, that you can't create if you don't do things perfectly. That creativity thrives on freedom, and as a child and acting as a child, you have that freedom from the normal rules that you would have as an adult. Setting aside those rules that, things have to be perfect, that you have to know everything about whatever it is that you want to create, allowing yourself to make mistakes. Those things are having that childlike wonder and curiosity of how things work or how things are created. Being open to drawing a sky that's purple and a tree that's blue. Doesn't matter. Just breaking free of those rules. Rediscover a childhood activity that you enjoyed. Maybe drawing and dancing and singing and maybe, building things with your hands with Legos. It may be Lincoln Logs, if anybody knows what those are. All of these things that you used to do as a kid that were creative, that allowed you to explore the world around you, those are the things that you want to reconnect with. Using your hands, playing with clay, paint, finger painting is great fun because you make a mess and you really have to be okay with making a mess with finger painting. Doodling without a purpose. When you're trying to remember things, doodling is a great way to do that. Laugh and enjoy. Kids love laughing at just silly things. If you're engaged in something that's goofy, that sparks joy in you, you're going to be a lot more childlike. And don't judge your creations, the things that you build or you draw or your music, whatever it is, don't judge it. Just be curious about it. Be wondering, how is it that I came up with this creation, and celebrate the fun of creating it, that process of creating it instead. So playing as a kid is one of the great ways to reconnect with that creative spark. Second way is exploring forgotten hobbies. What was it, things that you used to enjoy when you were younger that you kind of set aside? Write them down. Make a list of all the things that you once enjoyed and then ask yourself, why did I stop doing those things? So for me, painting is one of those big things. And I've been trying to figure out where I can set up, in the place that we're in right now, where I can set up an area that I can start painting again and start sharing with you. Right now, I'm in like a little closet area of our master bedroom, and I don't really have space in here, but I could create space in one of the other rooms in the midst of all of the construction we've got going on, but I'm sure I could carve out a little area. So regardless of how big that space is, create yourself a space where you have permission to pick that hobby up again. And just, even if it's for just 5-10 minutes, just to kind of get yourself back into the, why did I enjoy this? And why did I set it aside and stop doing that thing? Experiment with new tools or new techniques, to kind of breathe life into those old interests. Things have changed. Things have evolved. And maybe an interest that you had when you were younger has new tools or new techniques that you could experiment with that are different, way different than what you used to use. There are so many art supplies. When I look at art supplies, there are so many that are the same, but there are new things that have come out that I would love to play with. Think of what it is that you used to love as a hobby, and then what techniques or tools that you could incorporate to those now and make them more of what you want to do. Join a local or a virtual group that shares your passion for that hobby. Maybe there's an online meetup or local place that you could go. Those things are great to just go and see if it's something that you want to get back into or not. And then reflect on how this hobby made you feel when you loved it most. Me, painting is easy. I loved it because, especially when I was doing the videos as well, I could just intuitively paint something and not even really get that critical mind going because I was busy conversing with people on video. So when I was doing the painting live, and I didn't really think so much about what was going on with the painting. I was more focused on talking to people and having that conversation. And that really releases that critical mind of, oh my gosh, that's not right. This is not perfect. Things are not working out the way that I planned. I just went with it and went with that intuition. Whatever came out, came out. So maybe if you can do something like that, where that you may, even if you don't record it live for other people to see, but record it so that you're focused on what you're recording and not so much what you're creating. Or just go in and start creating something and don't worry about that critical mind whenever it pops up. Just kind of push it aside and say, you know what? This is just for fun. It's not going to be put in an art gallery anywhere. It's not going to be shared with the world right now. And maybe you do want to share it, maybe you don't. But that's the point is that you're creating something and not necessarily something that's going to be shared with the world. Let nature inspire you. Take a noticing walk and document the colors and the textures and the sounds that are around you. Start being more aware of your environment. You know, find a spot where you can sit quietly, you can draw, you can write about what you see. I love doing this. I love going for walks through the local park, hiking and that kind of thing, because then I can be away from people and be able to sketch out. And it doesn't have to be pretty. Trust me, some of my sketches are just horrible, but that doesn't matter. It's the act of practicing and trying to do these things. Use natural objects in your artwork, leaves or stones or flowers, or you can use them as creative prompts. I like using them in my artwork. I created this piece of artwork. It was 100 layers, and each layer, it stood out pretty far, but each layer I had glued on and painted on these different elements and mixed media. And, when it was finished, it was this crazy looking thing, but it was fun. The process was fun of just trying to figure out where I could put these random pieces. I had gears and leaves and pieces of wood and feathers that I had found and all of these different layers of paint that I had created and put on here. And it wasn't so much the end result, it was the fun of the creation. I don't even have that piece anymore because in the moving around, I think I probably got rid of it or did something with it. I don't even know. Maybe it might be hanging at one of the other houses. But my point is that it's not the end result so much as the process of you going through and having that fun and reigniting yourself with that creative part of you. So using gratitude to reframe boring activities as opportunities to notice the details of what's going on around you. If you're out in nature and you're taking a walk, and maybe you take a walk every morning and you're listening to your earbuds and you're kind of focused on what you're doing, start noticing those things around you. Start noticing, do you see some animals? Do you see the leaves on the trees? Have the leaves of the trees fallen off? All of these details. Noticing the negative space behind the branches. So positive space is the positive thing, is the tree itself. The negative space is the space between those branches. So pay attention to those kind of things where it's you're noticing the different layers of the world around you, because there's so many different layers. And then you could create art from ordinary things. Photograph shadows, sketch objects, write micro poems throughout your day. I love taking photographs of the shapes of trees or shadows of myself and Roy, or the things that people don't normally look at. So, normally people take pictures of family or yourself or whatever, but start taking pictures of things that you find interesting. They have an interesting shape. Even clouds. If you take pictures of the clouds and then you see different shapes, and you can use those as sketches, as drawing out little shapes on it. You can do all kinds of things with those photographs. So find joy in the ordinary things. Number 5 is breaking the rules. So try to create on purpose, try to create something ugly. Try to create something that is not perfect, focusing more on the process of it than the actual end result. And that was what that 100 layers was for me, that mixed media. It was more the process than the end result. Now, so many people could look at the end result and go, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. All these different layers. It's perfect. And then somebody else would look at it and go, what in the hell is that ugly mess? It was just something that was moreover the process of what I was creating and each of the different layers and how I could make it work more than what the end result would be. So purposefully making something ugly and kind of just shredding it and tearing yourself apart as far as what perfection looks like. Going more for how the process makes you feel and what you're going through when you're creating that. So combine unexpected mediums, paint on fabric, write on leaves. I had on this 100 layers project, I had gear, like I said, I had gears, I had feathers, I had shells, I had screws, I had layers of paint and, crayon, all different kinds of things. I actually may create something like that again so that I can show you the process. It was very easy, and it's just a matter of letting yourself go and not being critical of where things are going and just going with the flow. Write a story or a poem with no punctuation. Don't worry about grammatical errors. Just to see what happens, just to see what comes out. Or invent your own rules on a creative project and then break them halfway through. This is fun. When you were a kid, you created these games and you had all these rules when you started the game. But then as the game went along, you broke the rules. You changed the way that things were going to play out. And that's half the fun of thinking like a kid and allowing your creative process to just flow, regardless of what ends up or what the end product is going to look like. And then celebrate mistakes as creative breakthroughs. Those mistakes, those, things that end up ugly, those are ways for you to express yourself in a greater way. So I've got 5 action steps for you. First, grab some crayons, some markers, some finger paints, and create something with no purpose in mind. Just let your inner child run wild. A great way to do this is if you're, using your dominant hand versus your non-dominant hand. Using your non-dominant hand to create these things or to write stories out or to paint or create, color with your crayon, that allows that inner creative, that inner child to just go wild and play. So number 2 is spend 10 minutes dancing like no one's watching to some of your old throwback tunes, whatever, something from when you were a kid or even 5, 10, 15 years ago. So the other day, I have to tell you this, the other day Roy came in. He had gone to the store or something, and he came in, and here's me blaring music, dancing all over the place, acting like a fool to, I think it was Marilyn Manson's Beautiful People, I think is what I was listening to. And just, just listening to the music and allowing it to get into me and just bouncing all over the place. And Roy came in, and I kept on going. I don't care. If I act like a fool, I feel like a fool, doesn't matter. If I look goofy, I don't care. I'm having fun. I'm allowing myself to be childlike and have fun. So allow yourself to do that. Put on a song that you haven't listened to in a long time and just start dancing all over the place. Who cares what your family and friends think of you? Doesn't matter. How do you feel? So number 3 is write a silly poem or a story with no rules. Make it as goofy as you want. So pretend you're a little kid and you're creating this story about, a monster or, an adventure that you're going to go on, pirates and cowboys and Indians and whatever it may be, outer space. Just write the story of your child enjoying this, whatever it is. Just allow yourself to be free. So number 4 is build something with your hands. Legos, Play-Doh, even a sandcastle. They've got that funky sand that you can build things out with. I like building things with actually wood and nails or screws and a hammer and a screwdriver. Like just building whatever. I've done this with the grandkids. Just give them a screwdriver and a drill and some screws and scrap pieces of wood and just build whatever. It's so much fun because who knows what you're going to end up with. And if it's something that you would never use or don't want to hang on to, you just throw it away. It's no big deal, but at least you're allowing yourself to have that fun. So number 4 is watch a favorite childhood cartoon or a movie and jot down how it makes you feel. So I've done this a few times because, we'll be flipping through channels with the kids and come across a cartoon that I haven't seen in forever. And I think about how, where I was at that time. So like Chilly Willy or Woody Woodpecker or Popeye. These are old cartoons that we used to watch when I was a kid. And I remember where we were when we were watching those and the feelings and being with my family, being with the friends that we were with. But then I also step back and sometimes my adult brain thinks, oh my gosh, this is definitely not a kid's cartoon. There's so much violence or whatever it may be. But as a kid, you don't see it that way. You see it completely different. So how does it make you feel? And imagining as a kid, how does it make you feel? So I've got journaling prompts for you again. Number 1 is, what did I love to do as a child that I haven't done in years? So what did I love to do as a child that I haven't done in years? Number 2, how can I bring more playfulness into my daily life? How can I bring more playfulness into my daily life? Number 3, when was the last time I laughed uncontrollably and what sparked it? When was the last time I laughed uncontrollably and what sparked it? Number 4, what would my 7-year-old self tell me to do for fun right now? What would my 7-year-old self tell me to do for fun right now? And then go do it. Number 5, how does it feel to create without worrying about the outcome? How does it feel to create without worrying about the outcome? So go through those prompts, do some of the action steps, share with me down in the comments, tell me what you did, tell me how it went with the prompts. If this resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe. Tomorrow we're going to go over overcoming those creative blocks. So come back, join me, and don't forget, live life adventurously. It's the only way to live.